We all grow up in Australia believing that our wool is the finest in the world. But right now, many wool growers are going broke, and they're laying much of the blame on the organisation that collects millions of dollars from them each year to look after their interests. Emma Alberici has the story.
Well, I've seen what was a once great and profitable industry turning into an industry that isn't profitable, has lost a lot of its enthusiasm and passion.
Australia hasn't ridden on the sheep's back for close on 30 years, but wool growers like George Faulkner, whose family have seen Haddon Rig through 4 generations, say it's never been as bad as it is today.
Us sheep growers are losing market share and selling it at a price below the cost of production.
An industry that survived drought and floods claims it's now being devastated by the very organisation entrusted by the government to promote it.
But everybody's getting gain out of this, excepting the wool growers.
Australia's 60,000 wool growers pay a compulsory 4% tax to the Australian Wool Research and Promotion Organisation, known to the industry as ARAP. It's the body that's supposed to promote wool around the world and fund innovation to make the job of producing it more economic.
We don't get a cracker out of overseas promotion. We've seen that. We've had a drop in demand and we're going broke. Where's the wisdom that one comes from?
Angry wool growers are now threatening to throw out the government-appointed ARAP board, which is facing 3 separate motions of no confidence at next week's annual meeting.
They are concerned about the lack of accountability of this organisation to the people that pay the bills. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think they've performed appallingly.
Marie McCaskill is a director of the Australian Wool Growers Association, an industry lobby group and one of ARAP's fiercest critics.
They've never made wool part of the marketplace in the mass marketing chain. It's actually produced as underwear. It performs as well and as comfortably as cotton. But no one's bothered to actually tell the marketplace that wool can be a flexible fibre and it can be inexpensive.
ARAP's advertising and marketing budget last year amounted to more than $100 million. But many, like designer Liz Davenport, say the money was spent on expensive ads for clothing only an elite few could actually afford to buy.
Well, here we have got an example of misguided advertising where we have actually advertised wool shoes. Here I found a $3,100 singlet. Just the singlet is $3,100.
We operate within the statutes that are presented.
Well, but you can't hide behind that any longer.
I'm not trying to hide it, David.
Over the past month, ARAP board members have been on a roadshow around the country trying to garner support. But when we filmed this meeting in Victoria, no board member showed up, instead leaving it up to management to field questions from disgruntled wool growers.
I'd really like to know sort of the kind of activity that your group has taken to actually promote this product. Because if we could get every American lad with a pair of woolen jeans on his back, so we'd be doing pretty well. And I know that there are an awful lot of Australians who simply don't even know that they exist.
ARAP last year spent $103 million of growers' money. It promotes the industry through its subsidiary, the Woolmark Company, and this famous logo, which is licensed to designers and manufacturers. Problem is, 275 licensees stopped subscribing to the Woolmark last year.
Anybody, anywhere in the world, all they have to do is pay for it and they can use it. So then there is no quality control. Now it can be put into a jumper made in China. That jumper can be made from Russian wool and it can be brought into Australia with a wool mark on it.
What you're saying is very true, and that is that poor quality woolen garments that have carried the wool mark have unfortunately educated some people not to want to wear wool. And that's one of the reasons why I want to see us get trademark status.
Robert Gillam is a board member of ARAP and continues to support the marketing of Australian wool through the use of this generic symbol. Other countries like the US and New Zealand aggressively market their wool by calling it their own, while the Woolmark gives no clue that the fibre being used is Australian wool.
I have already had people come into Liz Davenport stores in Australia and ask for New Zealand wool, and they say at that time, I believe New Zealand wool is the best in the world, do you carry it?
So effectively you've been marketing everybody else's wool all over the world. You've been contributing to the marketing of everybody else's wool.
That's 100% correct.
In the past 5 years, productivity gains in the wool industry have been abysmal. Despite hundreds of millions of dollars invested in research and development through ARAP, the growers say they're still stuck in the dark ages.
This wool is handled 6 times by hand between coming off the sheep and getting onto the truck, and whereas cotton is not handled once by hand. And if we're going to compete with cotton and synthetics, we've got to change our ways of production.
Do you realise all these things are happening? I mean, I am totally sick of excuses from people sitting out the front. I want to say in my industry from now on.
And when I started here, I said, as wool growers, we've got no God-given right to survive. And we haven't.
Unless Australians get passionate and fired up about keeping some of these industries, then we won't have it, and Australia will lose not only part of its history, but a real potential money earner for the economy of Australia.
Time's passing the industry by, and that's really why this vote of no confidence has arisen, because we're all going to be out of the game before we get this thing profitable, unless the change is done urgently and effectively.
Emma, I'll reach you with that story. None of us here had heard of wool undies. We'll let you know how that crucial vote goes next week.